Heyo, how's it going? Welcome back to It's All About My Entertainment. It's all about me. On today's episode of my rambling nonsense, I want to talk about how I can fix what's been going on with the cinematic universe for Marvel. And how, since Avengers Endgame, and probably a little bit before, Marvel and/or Disney has been doing a terrible job of presenting us with quality movies that people actually want to watch. From failed TV shows to movies that just drag on, they don't seem to get it. And this is outside any politics or messages they may be pushing. Telling a good story is key. And if you're going to put an agenda or political messages into a film, they best be part of the story and theme, interwoven to complement one another, not just shoved in our face. It's much like CG or computer graphics, right? It should be used to enhance the visuals, not be the core aspects of the story and characters. Exactly. If you can't treat your audience like they're smart, it doesn't matter what you do with your movie. So, let's take a step back a couple of years to Avengers Endgame. This is probably the first biggest and most obvious sign that things were going to take a bad turn. Everyone remembers the huge fight scene at the end with the army of the heroes on the battlefield charging the army of Thanos' minions. And Spider-Man was struggling and needed help. So all of the female heroes gathered together to pose in the middle of a fight. Yeah. So the problem wasn't that it was the female heroes. It was them posing in the middle of combat while chaos surrounds them to stop the momentum of the scene, to be all like, hey, look at us, we're awesome. That was the problem. If they simply made it a sequence of Peter needing help as he's moving across the battlefield and sequentially having a female hero nearby that stepped in to help one after the other, maybe 2 or 3 at a time, that would have been great. We get to see the female heroes do their thing and it not stop or slow down or take us out of the moment. No issues. No complaints. However, in the following projects, we continue to see the storytelling degrade and take a back seat. Wanda and Vision kind of had a good thing going on, more or less, right? Didn't make sense at some parts. But the ending in particular, when Monica Rambeau's all like, hey, Wanda, they'll never know your pain or sacrifice or whatever, they kind of sort of forgot that Wanda kidnapped an entire town, forced them against their wills to participate in her escape from reality. What she did was horrible and awful, and they just kind of brushed it away like it was no big thing, only to escalate her to a villain in Doctor Strange 2 with no real build-up. Yeah, we've talked about this before. You gotta build it up and have a payoff. She goes off having to deal with her reality after the series, and all of a sudden had been studying a super evil book that corrupted her. There's no build-up, there's no payoff, thus, not invested. Then, when she's talking to Strange about how when he does it, he's a hero, and when she does it, she's a villain, or whatever that stupid exchange was about, it makes no sense. And you're not bringing in the context of what they're talking about with everything behind it. It tries to create a mic drop moment, but is the furthest thing from that. Then you've got Winter Soldier and the Falcon, which had its moments, we'll just say that. Hawkeye's series was underutilized. And Echo had potential, but was thrown away at every single opportunity. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 wasn't as good as you might think. Thor: Love and Thunder was a joke, and Captain Marvel was poorly written. Even though it is possible to make a character like that work. We have Captain America and Superman, which are good men, Boy Scout, quote-unquote, boring characters. But people love them because of how they're written and portrayed. Which is a shame, because Captain Marvel could have been great. The Marvels was dead before Arrival. Ant-Man and the Quantumness should have been like the other Ant-Man movies, and more focused on the comedy, without a huge universal evil like Kang being the big bad. Just slowly introduce him, or hint at him being a potential threat, kind of what like they did with, Thanos. Then you also had the Loki series where he hooked up with his female self, but she was like better and more competent at everything. And the fact that Loki has godlike powers, but doesn't use them. So many problems. Anyway, now we've got Doomsday and Secret Wars coming up. Let me touch on that first for a moment, and we'll go into depth. What was that? Well, that's obvious, but that's not what I'm going to talk about. He's in other things. Oppenheimer was good. Alright. So, bringing back Robert Downey Jr. to play Dr. Doom comes with a couple issues. First of all, RDJ said that he was done and wanted to do other stuff, more or less, right? Now, most of the things he's done haven't done well. That's not necessarily his fault. So, they give him a crap ton of money to come back to Marvel. Doesn't sit well with me, as the cost of these movies is already a problem. But Marvel is kind of doing what Star Wars did for Episode 9, right? They're like, oh no, we've been making bad movies that people don't like. Let's cater to them and overcorrect. If they bring in new actors to revamp the universe, cool. We get it. We know why. We understand. But to bring the same guy that played Iron Man, who died, the whole core of the cinematic universe, to play a villain in the same canon, I mean, come on. Not saying that RDJ isn't a good actor, he is, but I'm not wanting him to be Victor Von Doom. He's Iron Man. So that's going to be a difficult thing to get around, especially if the writing and storytelling of everything else since Endgame is going to be on the same level. There really is no hope. Well, except for me. Shush. So here's what they should do. Focus on Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Make Spider-Man, whatever title with home in it, or Part 4, the beginning stages of the reboot. So to establish a setup here, there's an animated series for Spider-Man back in the 90s, 1994, I think, that didn't get an ending. A quick recap of the last season, Mary Jane is replaced with a watered power clone of herself. Both her and Peter didn't know. They got married. Everything was great. Then an ex of hers, Morris, called Hydro Man, abducted her and said they were made for each other, which technically a scientist cloned her DNA for him. So they all fight. Spider-Man shows up. They save each other, defeat Hydro Man. However, her DNA is unstable, and she's melting/evaporating. Peter is distraught as she dies and wonders where the real MJ is. Then Madam Web shows up, not the terrible Sony version, and says, I can help you find MJ, but you need to help me first. Now, real quick, I just want to point out that for the casting, I would have Helen Mirren play Madam Web. She's a good actress, and she actually looks the part. Madam Web carries herself well. She's dignified and has an air of mystery about her, always letting on that she knows more than she's sharing. I think Helen would nail it, and with good writers, she could even elevate the role. Right, sorry. So that series never got an ending, which made me sad. There are a couple of shows that never got endings, and if I ever become rich and famous enough to I'd like to finish them and give them a proper send-off. Anyway, we start off with Tom Spider-Man doing his thing. Madam Web shows up, and she's all like, hey, I need your help saving the multiverse. And he's like, I probably shouldn't. I already ruined it, almost, and I probably shouldn't do it again. This shows that he's grown, gained a little bit of wisdom. But she says that he has a vital role to play in saving every universe, not just his own. And if he doesn't help, everything, along with all that he loves, will perish. So he's kind of like, all right, and leaves with her. They arrive in a dark space. But in the vast distance, you see a multiverse tied together like a little spiderweb. sort of kind of like our universe if you take a look at them fancy pictures out there, but those are more of like a brain neural network. Anyway, that's how I see it. So he sees other spider folk, and I will not include the Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield spider people because it would ruin their moments from the last one, in my opinion. So now you've got like 6 or 7 other variations of Peter Parker. You know, you could have the 6-armed half monster, a Tony Stark Iron Spider type of Peter, an actor that just plays Spider-Man in movies, one that uses Doc Ock's arms, a very depressed Spider-Man, etc. Or a little bit more similar to the people from the animated series version. Madam Web says, "You few are the only ones capable of doing this job, and you each have a key role to play." They talk and discuss things a little bit as they see a small section of the universe disappear. They get the idea and go to one of those universes to try and figure it out and find out what's happening and stop it from disappearing. Well, they fail. And they fail because they argue and they're not working together. Something Tom Peterman is familiar with, so he tries to rally the others to cooperate. They go to another universe that happens to be the Tony Stark Iron Spider one. They fail, and he's just, sour about it. He's like, I'm just going to stay here and save my own universe. And one of the other Spider-Men quit, and he wants to go home. Then you've got, the remaining Spider people. Then you've got the actor Spider-Man, and he sacrifices himself so they can get a piece of the puzzle. They take a short break, and Madam Web has a small chat with Tom Spider-Man Holland. He says the team isn't doing well, and they need better Spider-Men to take their place. She says that no others could, at this time, as they were all involved in serious situations in their own world. She then talks about the one Peter that is super depressed and hasn't really been performing well. She says that he is not only the first Spider-Man, but one of, if not the best Spider-Man in all of the universes. Spider Holland says that doesn't make sense. She explains that he thought the love of his life died, but was actually just missing, and he's lost all hope, sharing some of the plot from the animated series. There's a small pause as Peter Tom asks why he was chosen. Madam Web says, "Because you are just beginning on your journey in the mythos that is Spider-Man. You are still full of hope and determination. You haven't been beaten down by years of disappointment, failure, and loss. I brought you here to remind him of who he is, because if we are to succeed, we will all need him." We also begin to see the universes are disappearing at a faster rate. So, this plays a factor in a couple of ways, which I don't want to say too much, but since my version will never get made, I guess it couldn't hurt. So this will set up our Peter similar to someone like Neo from The Matrix, right? Where he's told he isn't the one. It makes his role feel more like a support to the main sad Peter. But we'll both set up Tom Man Spider Dude to become a better Spider-Man and play the main role in the Secret Wars to come after, still making him very important. This will help give an ending to the animated Spider-Man and provide a different perspective we haven't seen before. And, as the audience will pick up on this, Madam Web hinting that she knows more about what's going on and what will happen. Kind of like how Doctor Strange using the Time Stone to look at millions of futures, except Madam Web is better at it, because that's like her whole spiel. Side note, I am not a fan of remakes, sequels, prequels, reboots, etc. of any unwanted or unnecessary films that Hollywood has been doing for the last decade and a half or so. Banking solely on the nostalgia to bring in money rather than telling good stories or original ideas. Now, I hear rumors about them doing with Spider-Man animated series, like they did with the X-Men animated series, or it's called X-Men 97 or whatever. And they'll make Spider-Man 98 or some stupid thing. And I think it's a bad idea. Now, I've never seen the X-Men 97 reboot, nor do I have any intention to, regardless of whether it's good or not. And the reason being, it's kind of about the principle of it, right? But also, the X-Men animated series and the Spider-Man animated series, as much as I loved them, were products of their time. They belong where they were and not to be messed with or changed. We already have new, if not several, new incarnations of X-Men and Spider-Man. So doing another one based on a property that they've already done, why not just continue with the new stuff that they're already making? I don't know. Something new. I mean, there's millions of properties out there that they could be doing, and instead they're doing this and remake or reboot, soft reboot, continuation, sequel, whatever. It seems cheap, it's uncreative, it's unwarranted, and it just makes me sad. So anyway, as for me, giving a small send-off in the films to the animated series is better than resurrecting done and finished products. But I digress. Plus, you could, this would be cool. You could have the Spider-Man voice actor, Christopher Daniel Barnes, play the part of the actor Spider-Man, who plays an actor who plays Spider-Man in movies in the movie. A little meta, I know, but that would be a lot of fun. Did you also know that that was the voice of Eric in The Little Mermaid? I didn't know that. I just found that out. That's awesome. Anyway, Spider-Man Tom talks to Sad Peter and doesn't seem to make much headway. The team then jumps again to another universe, and Monster Peter goes crazy and gives in to the animalistic side of him, turning against the Spider team, causing the mission to fail. And we also lose the Doc Ock Spider, and the Monster Spider will perish in that universe. So we've got like 2 to 4 Peters left. They go into another universe where they have a decent chance to stop this one from disappearing. Our Tom Man refuses to give up as things are looking bad, and inspires Sad Peter Man to step up and save Spider Tom from dying. It's here Madam Web says that Sad Peter's MJ is here, and he is ready to save her and this universe. But Madam Web says they need to leave as another universe is collapsing. Main Sad Spider-Man says he will stay here to stop it, and the other 2 Spider people leave. Sad Peter goes through some stuff to save MJ, finds her, they reunite, and are happy. Then he takes her as they go to stop the multiverse from dying together. We have the last 2 Peters go with Madam Web to another universe where they discover someone called Molecule Man. And he is the reason why everything is disappearing. The other Spider dude ends up dying to an ambush by a group of villains, and Tom Spider is barely able to escape. He stands there with Madam Web behind him, looking at the multiverse going dark all around them. Peter Man Tom says he's sorry that he failed her. You see, the universes begin to disappear except for one, which happens to be the Sad Spider-Man one. And Madam Web says, "It's quite all right, young one." Tom says, "I guess I did my job and helped the main Peter save that universe at least." Madam Web says, "Perhaps, but that's not the only reason I brought you here." And Tom says, "Why did you bring me here?" She slowly fades into the darkness as you hear, "So you can be exactly where you need to be." Peter turns around to see her gone. Behind him, a bright flash of light that envelops everything, including him. Things snap to darkness. Small glimmer of light, and then the movie ends. The movie after Spider-Man 4 will be Secret Wars. Now, I love this idea better than anything that Marvel might be preparing for right now because, one, my own personal desire to more or less give an ending to the animated Spider-Man. Two, it actually implements the Spider-Man that they've kind of been building up to be the center/replacement of Tony Stark in the new Marvel universe going forward anyway. And three, it's got high stakes. Involves things from the comic, good fights, and good personal moments and interactions to help give characters an idea about why they're Spider-Man and why they choose to do what they do. All of which will grow, inspire, and inform our Spider-Man, Tom Holland, to be the leader that he needs to be with what comes next. Now, in the Secret Wars movie, you do this so that Tom Spider can take the role of the audience in the movie, as he's introduced to all of the craziness that will take place there, because there's going to be a lot to explain. I think sticking to the comic of Dr. Doom being the one that started all of this by killing Molecule Man, Him and Reed Richards survive outside of time and space, just like our Peter, but having the chance to rebuild it. Doctor Doom takes on the role because Reed doesn't feel worthy enough, even though Doctor Doom said Reed would do a better job. And our Peter falls into the new reality, not knowing what's going on, but only having a clue that it has something to do with Molecule Man. The audience will discover this with Tom, as it's a mystery for Spider Peter Holland to figure out. As for Robert Downey Jr., and I think Chris Evans is coming back as another character, or the same character. I don't know. I'm not sure. There's too much crap going on out there to keep track of. Anyway, what you do here is you have them come back and play their original roles as Tony Stark and Steve Rogers, giving them one last hurrah and preparing for the new universe without them. And I'm sure that, well, no, never mind. I'm not sure. I don't know about Hemsworth. I know he likes the idea of doing Thor, but he wants his Thor to not be a buffoon. So if we do get him to come back, I would have him be a more serious Thor, more of a warrior, and we'll have him kind of do the whole Thor core. So after Secret Wars, you then start over. You completely rebuild the Marvel Cinematic Universe with different actors and heroes, with Tom Holland as Spider-Man at the center. Maybe. It depends on if he also wants to get out of there. Then you start over completely, right? However, I would highly recommend not starting at individual beginning films. Start with an Avengers film, where the world is already established, so we can come into it already knowing the main characters. They're just played by different actors. Well, I hope you liked it. I think it's great. Certainly better than anything else that we're going to be given or what we can expect from Disney and Marvel at this point. But who knows? Maybe a producer will see this and call me and have me come write and direct these movies to actually make it good. This is not going to happen, but it's a fun thought. This oddly went a lot smoother than it usually does. Oh. You fell asleep. That makes sense. Well, thanks for watching, and catch you later.